I'm Sheek.
I'm Joel, and this is a short print. So, Sheik, first topic of the day, we got the Chicago Sports Spectacular that's coming up this weekend. I'm prepping some cards for grading because I really don't know what else to do. And I think that's the thing that I'm struggling with. So, we're talking about our 90s cards. I got my Jordan Gold medallions. They're probably going to be, I'm guessing, the 7-8 range. We'll see if PSA is kind. A couple of these season's best Bombardiers Jordans. For some reason, I'll tell you this card in particular always got me. This was a $20 card. I pulled one of these out of a pack, and I actually got the other one for my friend in a lot. This card in particular, I don't know why this card, if you look on eBay, they can do around $150 today. And
Wow.
for me, I think the only reason why is because of just how interesting this card looks. I don't know any other reason because I don't think that this is a tough insert. I think it was a 1 in 12 pack insert.
Has a lot of balls. But
Yeah.
anyway, maybe because the PSA 10 or BGS 95 is worth a lot more today.
Oh,
Or maybe it's
definitely.
that could be it. But it's interesting you brought up grading. I'm actually waiting. PSA has their 12 days of Christmas happening right now, and every single week they keep introducing almost like a scratch off. This is the weekly special. So for me, I have a lot of stuff in my sets I want to get graded, and they were just too expensive during COVID. So now I'm actually waiting for the scratch off for bulk. And once bulk hits, I swear I'm probably going to be sending another like 200-300 cards actually there. And I need to just get a bunch of stuff that I've put off for a long time to get graded. And I don't know, I'm just particular. Like if I have one grading I only want one grading company per set. So if if I do majority Beckett and I have something in a PSA, if I have a PSA 10, Joel, I'll freaking sell the PSA 10 so that just to get some profit out of the PSA 10 and then rebuy into a BGS 95.
It's funny because that's totally not me. And I know many. I think there's many collectors that I hear, at least ones that are public about it, that are in the same lane as you about I need consistency across all. To me, grading, I just want the best grade I can get in many cases, or in many cases with rare cards, I just want the card, like period. I don't care about the grade. Like if it's about fulfilling a set.
Well,
But
I
that
mean,
being said,
I don't care if it's a PSA 7, Joel, to be honest. Like I just need it all to be the same company. Like all PSA or all Beckett. Um, you know, interesting segue actually. So we're talking about all in the same set. How about we get started on what we're going to talk about, the set that we're going to talk about in this episode?
all right. So the set for this episode today is 2000 to 2001 Ultimate Collection basketball. Right off the bat, the first thing that's unique about this set is it's the first time Ultimate Collection was ever introduced in the sport of basketball. Unfortunately, it was with a very unfortunate draft class. And that was probably the downside at the time. That being said, we talk about Exquisite being the high end of all high end packs at $500 when Exquisite came out. This box literally was $400 at the time, which was $100 a pack, four packs in that large box. Any thoughts that you have right off the bat before we get into it, Kaushik?
Yeah. So this was when I first started getting into collecting, and I was just investigating Exquisite because I wasn't collecting when Exquisite was going out. I started the first year after Exquisite ended, which is unfortunate, but also maybe fortunate for me too, because I probably would have collected differently. I was always told that this was the Exquisite before Exquisite. That's
100%.
that's how my friends taught me about this set. And then I just know like what I like about it is every card is serial numbered, and you get 4 base, and then you get like a jersey or patch or an auto card as the 5th card. That's how it worked. Um, what's interesting is you could buy these boxes now. It's not horribly priced if you wanted to open one, but probably don't, because the chance of you pulling a good one is probably limited. I've seen so many Kobe Gold autos already out there. I think it goes bronze out of 200. I think it goes silver out of 75, and then gold out of 25. And one of the things that and when we get a chance, and Joel, I don't know if I can share my screen, but if I have the ability to do so, let me try.
There we
Check
go.
this out. So I thought, I don't know if this is real or not, but because it's out of 75. And when I think about a card like this, I'm like,
It's
why would there be a tag on out of 75? But I do want to point out something. This card does have logomens in the patches. So do you know any history about that? Whether those cards are real? Are they not real?
me personally, I'll tell you this: it would be hard for me to trust it if I see a logo man at that time because it really wasn't something that was advertised at that point to be put in the cards. I know it became something very special. I don't think that they were putting it in at that point in time. I think that
Yeah.
if anything, you had the multicolor like piping material on the jersey, and then they specifically had the patches at that time. So let me tell you this: so if they know that a prime piece or a patch, and they limit that card to 25, it was very interesting actually. Fortunately, there's a couple boxes on YouTube, and just quickly, there's only 3 base cards per box, not 4. So the 4th card was actually either a base card or you got a patch card. So that at that time they
Oh, okay.
knew if you got a patch card as something premium, right? And that took the place of a few of the base cards in the pack. Um, and so I guess what the reason why I say that is because if they already know that a patch is premium, why would they just give away a logo man willy nilly?
I know. I don't agree with that. But I will tell you this though. On the patch cards, most of them are napkins. And then only
Yeah,
very few are patch. And so I found that really interesting because in today's market, if you have like a out of gold, like out of 10 patch card, it is a legit patch. And
I
then if
think
it's
it's
like an
because they
out
had
of
to
99,
calibrate.
it's like a napkin. What?
It's because I think because that time they had to calibrate all that. I think because of all those years of pain, at that time it was a new concept, and like anything that's a piece of the patch of material, you
Jersey.
should be happy you got. If you got a little sliver of a second color, that's a premium, right? But then in
Mm-hmm.
time, I think the hobby kind of dictated that there's a premium to be given the more colors you have, right? And because of that, people are commanding that, and so then companies like, well, shoot, I guess we gotta align this a little bit more. But there's many times, even through the Panini era, which was much later, where you see, you have this card number to 5, which is supposed to be a prime piece of material, and you got this nice white swatch right in the middle there, even though it's technically patch material, but it doesn't look special because of the fact it's just all white.
Yeah, and then did you buy any of these packs or at all, or were you just
No,
um
see, for me, this is when I was in college. I just had to be a onlooker at that time for
well, I
me
mean,
to
$100 a
watch.
pack is expensive, Joel.
I
That's
mean, I'll tell you this: I
that
got out of even when I got out of school. I think the first Ultimate I ever like got to open myself was like in 2004. So the year after LeBron, right? I had a little bit of money, and I would try like a pack here or there, and
Mhm, mhm.
get absolutely crushed, right? Um, and then 2005 football, I opened a bunch because I don't know, I thought that class was interesting at the time, and that class ended up being horrible outside of Aaron Rodgers, who came out to be good much later, right? So that was a lot of
Oh
money
yeah,
down the drain
he
there.
sat for like 3 years. I felt
3 years, yeah, 3 years on
yeah
the bench.
behind Brett Favre. He sat for a while, and I think he was at the end of the first round. There were a few quarterbacks taken in front of him actually. Um, but yeah, no. So I actually think what's cool about this set is like there's like cool evolution to what we saw in years later. But then the other thing that I'm seeing is like it was I want to say like it was probably like the start of patch autos serial number that a lot of people started liking. Like
Yeah,
I kind of felt like it was like one of the inception points. It, to me, I think what I like the most in the card is the designs. I really like the vertical design on the base cards. I'm more of a base kind of guy. I know you're more of an auto kind of guy, but I'm more of a base guy. Everyone loves the autograph cards, but personally, if I were to choose one, I would choose the vertical design. The horizontal designs have the patch autos,
yeah,
and so I like that clean kind of like a I don't know, almost like it's like a faded, but it's color matched to their
yeah,
team, right? The Kobe's is like purple.
yeah. You know what it is? I don't know if I shared this with you before. I think what I like about the on-card autos and the patches is, first of all, looks and aesthetics and all that. Like for me, that makes most sense. Secondly, I think it helps keep these companies honest, because when we value just base cards and serial numbering, I feel like it gives them all the power to do whatever they want, right? But if you put
Mhm.
limiting factors like needing a game used material or needing a non-card autograph, all of a sudden it's like they actually have to commit resources and money to making that special, meaning that it's going to be limited. It just inherently has to be limited.
So this brings up a good point, right? And I'm looking at you. You take a look at the checklist. You got everybody. There's KG. There's Jordan, Kobe, everybody. There's no Magic or Larry. So then the question is, could they just not get them under contract, or could they not, or did they? I have to go take a deeper dive into the checklist, but are they not available to even get a jersey? And because they weren't available to get a jersey, then they were like, okay, well, there's no reason to keep the Magic and Bird cards in just the subsets and not the whole product. But they're the only two main players in that whole checklist that's not represented. And I know that they're in many years around that.
Yeah. No, it's that is very interesting. At the time I didn't realize that Magic and Bird aren't out of it because you kind of expect them to be part of it in that
Exactly.
time period. But really, I mean, we talk about. I'm sure you might remember the years where Jordan autographs got down to something like $300 to $400 for a Jordan
Mm-hmm.
autograph. When
Mm-hmm.
these came out in Ultimate Collection, they were still a premium card way above that, right? I think that drop in value of Jordan happened later because at this point, if you pulled a Jordan, you're still over the moon,
Mm-hmm.
majorly over the moon if you pulled a Jordan auto, right? And I think we lost that in like the late 2000s. I think that's what made this special. This was the first time that Upper Deck was like, hey, we're going to give collectors an opportunity to basically reduce the or compress a product and
Mm-hmm.
basically give you a chance at just hits, right? All right, like every box you're going to have a chance at a major hit. That being said, I don't think we touched on this yet. Every pack of Ultimate Collection had an SGC graded card.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and you think about the boom, uh, or the hobby boom in 2020 with COVID, and there's this movement towards SGC because SGC was open right during the pandemic, and so a lot of people were using SGC. Big
Mm-hmm.
push by them. Hey, kudos to them. They got a lot of market share during that time.
Yeah, and
That being said, how
I've
many
actually
people acted
seen
like
this. I've
how many
Yeah.
people in that time acted like SGC was a new product? Right? And people
Oh,
acted were like, "Oh no, SGC grading. There's no history there. Like, no one appreciates their grades." SGC was around forever, and they specifically were chosen for products in the early 2000s, like Upper Deck, to be putting products on the market.
and
And
honestly, like back then, the SGC was different. It's like a 100-point scale,
100-point scale,
and
but they had both. They showed the 100-point scale, but then they showed what it converted to. They made sure to show the conversion.
exactly. I kind of wish they kept that. I
Yeah,
actually kind of like that. It's. I think maybe now they changed it maybe to be simpler, and also the competition is doing that. But it almost like shows you like, okay, if you have like a 9.5 in SGC, then how good is your 9.5? Is it 97? Is it 96? But yeah, I honestly think like the tuxedo slab is not for me. I'm not the biggest fan of the tuxedo slab, but it's very clear to me that the most expensive cards in the world are slabbed with SGC.
yeah.
So, I think there's like a lot of tradition there, and it's just not what I like from like how to represent my cards. That's it.
I'll tell you this: the one reason I don't like it is because it doesn't fit in my same box, and that really gets on my nerves when I try to put an
Mm.
SGC slab in like the same box with a PSA slab. Say if I use my super old, yeah. How many of you have a box like
Your own
this? I
box?
mean,
Yeah.
this is the opposite of what the hobby likes today. But I still use the shows and get laughed at all the time because I use my
No,
old
man, I
PSA
have a
box.
couple. I have a couple of those. There.
The more tape I have on this, the better this box is. Better than any Zion box out there. Any Zion case you can get. Sorry, I actually
Look at
really
this.
like the guy who
This
owns
is the
Zion.
box I got. This is just a normal box. I have no
Yeah.
cards in it, but this is the box I have. I
Well,
like
how
it.
much
I
tape
actually
does your
think you
box
can
have
walk
on it?
around with it. Hey, guess what? Hey, guess what people are doing now? People are doing those little merces. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like the new thing. Um, you know what? That's what's interesting about this, because if SGC just came out with an announcement yesterday or 2 days ago about a Bowman special, a Bowman Chrome. They're going to charge like $9 a card for Bowman. It made me think like, if they got some kind of licenseship with one of the main baseball products, and they pre-graded the items, like encased, right? Encased graded it, but
Hmm.
unfortunately, Encased's mistake is they didn't put subgrades on the card. That irritates the crap out of me when Beckett cards don't have subgrades. And the reason people did it during COVID was there were faster turnaround times, so that irritated the crap out of me. So
Not just
I
that.
think
I'll tell you this. Not
that
just that. So I did the no subs, and I'll tell you why I did no subs. Because it pissed me off. They're charging $40 for subgrades, and I'm like, why am I
yeah,
going to pay
I mean, yeah, it was
$40 for
like
you to do
25
what
for
you're supposed
no.
to do? No, it's really
No, go
quick.
ahead.
I was telling people actually. Um, I said like they would tell me like, well, it's 9.5. I don't know what the subs are. I'm like, assume it's min. I don't care. Assume it's min gem. Like that's fine. And that would get people kind of worked up because they're like didn't know what
Well,
to do because they couldn't talk me down anymore, right?
well, could you imagine if we had a product today that decided to be like, okay, well, all the cards or all the main hits, they're going to be pre-graded by the grading companies, and then they're going to be inserted into the product. I don't know if customers would like it. I don't know, because there is this allure of hitting a jackpot, and that is like the essence of like what people love in the hobby. Like they want a chance to hit gold.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want to call it like a slot machine, but it's kind of like that. Like you think a card is going to be a 9 or is going to be an 8, and then you get a higher than anticipated grade, and you're like, boom, this is awesome. I don't know. It's like a gift. It's almost
Yeah.
like one of
Well,
those.
I think that was the joy of grading, is because it helped when you're breaking. When I broke a lot of product, grading was that thing that was like, okay, well, I just got crushed on this product, but hopefully, if this one card grades out or if this set of
Mhm.
cards grades out, I can get back decent amount so I can rip again. That's totally degen ripping thinking. But that being said, it really helped. If it comes out of the pack that way, hey, that saves us one step. It helps get us closer to, like say, because if you're ripping boxes, the chance of you getting something that you actually want is slim, right? And usually the cards you get, you're going to use if you're in it for the purpose of collecting. You're going to sell some of them off so that you can either buy the card you want or buy another box if that's what you want, whatever it is you want. Because ultimately, what you got out of that box was not what you wanted. It's a very rare case where you actually get the thing that you actually want, but it's fun.
Well, well, I mean, okay, so that's one avenue where it's like the job is kind of done for you. The other thing that's happening right now is Topps came out with the MLB debut cards,
Yeah,
and they are all redemptions, in
right.
the sense that you and
Well,
Topps said,
in the lower tier products, I think in the top end they have them in the pack because they can protect them, and then it's going to be redemption lower tier like the lower SKUs like the retail, right?
exactly. So then I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they're like a company where I'm just like, man, maybe I would have just gotten those graded before a customer got it. But I'm telling you, I think there's just this whole perception that people just want to hit the jackpot. I think that's what's happening, and I sometimes on like thick cards, I worry about what condition they are in the package, like flawless. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
cards are so thick, and you know how much it can get murdered on
Mm-hmm.
by Beckett on the edges and things like that. But I thought that was interesting that SGC graded a card in all and was it one per box?
So it was one graded card per box, and at that time, and you see this even today, a lot of them, if you go back to them, were like 8.5 kind of range on grades, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, how are these cards coming out from the company 8.5s? And you think, yeah, okay, thick cards, etc. But that wasn't the thinking at the time. A number of these cards were cracked out and regraded, and ended up gemming. People would use BGS. BGS was very prominent at that time and really starting to hit mainstream. And a lot of that was being crossed over to BGS because they actually ended up gemming. People would look at the card in the case and like think it looks better. And I think there was an assumption at the time that maybe SEC or there was a relationship being like, okay, we don't want everything. We need like a range of certain grades throughout this product that come out, and they're like, okay, this can be an 8.5, etc. That's all hearsay. But that being said, there were many cards that ended up grading better after. Yeah, even the cards that were in the case. But at least they were encased and you had something to begin with, which is
Oh
cool.
yeah,
I
I mean,
think that
like
was a very good
part
idea.
part of the reason we keep them encased is, well, obviously most people is the resale value, but secondarily, like sometimes, and this is probably a great segue for this, but you and me have a lot of children at the house. So,
Hmm.
it's one of those things like, okay, how much damage can really happen? And I don't want to ask that question to you because you probably have seen your fair share
Well,
of
okay, so
destruction in other areas.
I got a funny quip about this. A friend of mine was with me. We actually this is peak COVID where you're like meeting with people outside and the like. So we finally got a grading batch back from PSA that I had submitted some stuff with my friends. So he came to give me one of the cards, and there was a Colin Sexton patch auto, and it got a PSA 10, which at the time was great. Colin Sexton was doing really well. My friend hands me the card, and I brought my son with me to meet up with him. We met outside because it's COVID, and that's what we do. And my son's name is Colin, so I actually took it, and I said, like, "Hey, Colin, look at this," and I showed him, look, his name's Colin too. My son literally took the card, held it. He's like, "Eh," and like threw it in the air, and ended up falling. And I was like, "What? What are you doing?" But he didn't know what to do with it, and that was his first reaction. Fortunately, it was in the case. I had to get it recased after that, but fortunately it was all good. But it definitely needs some rework, and yeah, definitely children can come into play.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So my son, he's a lot younger than yours, so he truly doesn't know what the heck's happening. He's here for having fun. I bought a Lorcana, opened a Lorcana pack, and I gave him a Mickey Mouse card, and he's like, the guy's like 9 months old, so all he does is he puts it straight into his mouth and tries to chew on it. But essentially, I also I got like these custom cards made for his first birthday, like a rookie card shortstop, and I gave him one of those. And the first thing that he does is he crumples it up and gives it to my dog. So yeah, it's just funny how this whole thing is, because we are like on this crazy alert. So this is very interesting that you guys we're talking about this now. When my wife moved in to the place that I like, when we first started living together, she knew I was into sports cards, but she didn't understand how anal I became on the organization I have on sports cards. The thing that she tells me is, the way that you're organized in sports cards, why aren't we carrying that to the other aspects of your life? And I just, she's asking a question I don't know the answer to. The answer is I maybe I care way more about the sports cards than cleaning my desk. So that could be the answer. But I don't know if you had like these instances like that, like, because I have things like, I'm just so particular on how things my sets have to be in order. Okay. And I even have them all separate in dividers. Like, there's all kinds of things that I do. Do you do things like that?
Yeah, it's funny. So I think kind of the rule is I have a space in the house, and kind of like I keep most of the things there, and in general the kids kind of stay away, and because of the fact that there's just so much stuff, right? And what I've had to do is, I have my shelving that I use to kind of keep certain things organized. Fortunately, I think in general I tend to be fairly like a neat-ish person, so I think it tends to translate. That being said, you mentioned the desk. Right now, I'm looking around, and I have like so many shuffled papers that are not on camera right now, which is probably a good thing. But I tend to try to keep things like neat like this for the most part. But I feel like that disheveled nature is starting to kick in, because I think the problem is sometimes you get too much stuff happening at the same time, right? And
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
part of life.
I got a breaking pile. Like, if I need to crack some slabs out, if I need to. And
Yeah.
I'm not a big grader. Okay, I don't grade all the time, but I cannot find myself to get motivated to send to the grading company. I am not like other people. A lot of people are very motivated. Let's send. And then the other thing that I hate about is I hate listing things. Do I love getting money when I sell things? Yes. But listing it, man, I
Hmm.
really don't like listing items. There's so much work involved there, the packaging, the shipping. I'm not saying that I don't do it. I definitely do. But I put those things off because it doesn't really excite me as much as going on to the internet and buying a card.
I think that's what was the hard part, and people kind of in the card space kind of hate the idea of the whole frictionless purchase, right? Um, well, they might like it, but I think it's when I think of that term frictionless, I think of 2020, 2021, Gary V's of the world coming into the space, really trying to work on making this whole thing frictionless, right? And because you'd open a box of cards and in your head you're like, oh, okay, well, it's not bad. I opened like at the time like $120, $150 box. Maybe I got like $50 worth of value here. The problem is, how do I get that value, right? And then you have to start figuring out, okay, if I don't want any of these cards, it means I have to sell them. That means I have to put them in top loaders. I have to, list them on eBay, or I have to find somewhere to get, or I have to go to local shows and get them done. Or, say if I sell on eBay, I have to look at the condition. There's all of a sudden all these things you got to do because to get this little bit of money to make sure that you can just get that out.
So,
right?
so I think the answer to this solution is now we just gotta hire your son, and then we pay your son, and then we put it into a Roth IRA account. That's what we do.
And maybe
That's going to be the trick.
Once he gets past this whole throwing my cards up in the air, maybe we're getting closer. But definitely, I've been trying to figure out how to introduce them to it. I feel like, so I'm like the guy, if I go to a show, this is one thing I tell my wife, like, hey, I don't golf. I used to golf. I don't golf anymore. I don't like do any major things. I go to a card show, and if I'm at a card show, I tend to stay start to end for the shows I go to. That being said, I feel like my kids are not ready for that yet. So if I were to bring them to the show to stay with me from start to finish, I have to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to go to this show, if I'm going to bring my kids, that means I'm staying for like an hour, and I have to buy them $1 million worth of snacks and whatever else we got to do to keep them motivated. And I think that's where my barrier is. But once I kind of get them in that groove and they feel like they want to, I guess I got to start getting them interested. Because yeah, I think it'd be cool to set up our little gig where they can earn some chore money helping me list and doing that and getting the feel for that, because I think they would love it.
Well, it was hard for me to relate because on this one issue, because I didn't have a kid. And still, my kid's so young. He hasn't gotten to that stage where he's going to openly communicate with me how he's feeling yet. The one thing that I have been noticing ever since, my wife was pregnant and now he's born is I'm looking at things in card shows and I'm thinking about, man, like, would it hurt my feelings if he doesn't want to do cards? Fine, I'll get over it. He may not like cards. I don't know if he's going to. I'm not going to push it on him. He can make his own choices. But when I walked at National last year and I saw Sports Card Investors Kids Trade Zone, yeah. I kept thinking to myself, I would 100% bring my kid there and work with him on anything he wants there. Let him kind of make mistakes, figure out what he wants to do. I actually think that would actually help him to talk to other kids that way and have fun. I don't want to call it like a daycare, but it's indirectly a card show daycare.
Quickly, just to recap, I know we jumped to a lot of different things, but for 2000 to 2001 basketball, Ultimate Collection basketball, the important points here is that you got an SGC graded card per pack, which was interesting. This is a $400 per box product. There was 4 packs, $100 each. Each pack was a box within that main box. This was the first time that this kind of product was done within basketball and really made people feel like they had a realistic shot at something like a Kobe Bryant autograph or a Michael Jordan autograph, which was at the time almost inaccessible for the hobby. So this is the first time that people felt like, okay, there's a realistic shot. That being said, this product was absolutely brutal to open at the time. So there's a couple boxes on YouTube. I implore you to watch those and feel for those people when they're pulling their Darius Miles autographs, who was one of the hottest rookies at the time outside of Kenyon Martin.
He was expensive out of the gate. Darius Miles was. He's forever memed in history of basketball.
I don't think you can really just bring a high school player in and really just think your team gonna really turn around like that. If he come, you know what I'm saying, he can just hop on our bandwagon and hopefully we can do something big.
Right, yeah, we didn't touch on that yet. So the draft class ended up being kind of abysmal, but this marked the beginning of the major high-end product that people usually earmark to Upper Deck Exquisite collection, but really Ultimate beat them to the punch there. And Ultimate was a precursor to what Exquisite became. So that's about it on that product, and really what I want to highlight for this week on it.
Sounds good. So just to let everyone know in the audience, thank you so much for tuning into our first episode last week. We are going to keep it coming every 2 weeks. We're going to talk about a new set every single episode. I think we'll talk about a little bit more potentially relevant product stuff or relevant athlete related items and how it ties back into cards moving forward. We really enjoyed that as well. So thank you for tuning in, and we hope to catch you on the next one.